Alright, I'm making this video to talk about one of the precious few quests and choices in The Witcher 3 that I do not particularly enjoy. Now, this is not an April Fool's video, so if you're looking forward to my wildly exaggerated claims, you may be disappointed. Before we begin, I'd like to mention the fact that the culmination of Radovid's assassination chain is certainly the most universally disliked part of the story, based on my comments at least. And while I tend to agree with the complaints against it, this video is not about that quest. I might dedicate another one to it in the near future, but for now, we're going to take a look at Lambert's personal quest.
Very funny.
Very funny.
Well, I suppose he has two quests, more specifically following the thread, which begins with the vampire hunt in Novigrad, continues all the way in Skellige, and ends with us either killing or sparing the life of the Witcher Yad Karadin. If you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you should know that I adore many of the quests in The Witcher 3 for their depth and their attention to detail.
Maybe, once in a different time, I'd have helped.
But here, there are undoubtedly several signs of the developers rushing or overlooking certain aspects. My first issue is rather early on, actually. After killing the vampire and meeting Lambert.
Greetings, Lambert.
The guard at the door decides to let both Witchers in for no reason, despite literally claiming the opposite.
No reason you should abandon your post.
Can't argue with reason. Go on in.
Keep in mind that he initially refuses to let Geralt in when we take the quest.
Like to talk to this supervisor.
Too bad he don't receive petitioners.
And on the second encounter, not only are there two Witchers who demand entrance, but they also bring zero evidence that they've completed the contract. They don't even attempt to explain what they did or what happened.
So?
What do you think? We did what we had to do. Time to pay up.
It would have been a good opportunity to show Lambert using the axe or something, but the way it currently plays out simply doesn't make sense to me, especially given the fact that the contract giver is supposed to be a shady and dangerous individual. Anyway, he doesn't know anything, and we're off to meet Vienne, another former member of Karadin's band, who conveniently has information about everyone except for Karadin himself, which in hindsight is a little peculiar, because three of them are now hiding in Novigrad, one in Faro and one in Tretogor. Yet it's the people in Skellige and Tretogor who know how to get to Karadin, while the other two people in Novigrad have no idea about Karadin at all. Meanwhile, he's a rather well-known trader in the city. He has changed his name, true, but it doesn't seem as though he's trying hard to conceal himself. And speaking of Vienne and convenient circumstances, even if we decide to spare her here, she still ends up disappearing, which removes the possibility to seek any further information from her when, at the end, Karadin claims that it was she who dealt the killing blow to Lambert's friend. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The issues continue all the way in Skellige when we meet Hammond, who is now involved in slave trade. By the way, a small segue if I may, some people have commented that the quest with Hammond and Krach is bugged once again, and you still cannot get the reward for killing Hammond.
There's a price on Hammond's head. Once you're done, come see me. I'll pay you gladly.
That used to be a long-standing bug which was fixed in the next gen, at least initially.
Take this. I'll send men out to deliver word of Hammond's demise.
Do let me know if it's currently working. But anyway, there is essentially no dialogue with Hammond about Karadin. He immediately jumps on top of us.
Come on, what are you waiting for? Kill the fucker!
And we're forced to kill him. The only bit of information we get is a letter sent to him by Karadin, which actually results in a major contradiction later on. I've had a handful of viewers messaging me about it as well. So, after reading the letter, Geralt tells Lambert that Karadin and Hammond never severed ties.
Pretty likely Karadin lives in Novigrad, and he never severed ties with Hammond. They're actually in business together.
Yet the letter gives the exact opposite information. Carradine specifically tells Hammond that he does not wish to do business with him, no matter how profitable the proposition seems to be. Not only does the letter indicate that Carradine severed ties with Hammond, but it also potentially implies that Carradine was never involved with the slave trade in the first place, which in turn goes against Lambert's information from Tretogor.
He trades in, live goods on the sly. Owns a ship called the Pearl of the Coast. Runs between here and Skellige.
Yet we never get the option to bring any of this up. Geralt instead acts as though the letter is in perfect harmony with Lambert's information. And it gets even worse. We cannot mention any of this when we finally get the chance to talk to Carradine himself. The entire thread of his involvement in the slave trade, or with Hammond in general, is completely ignored, which is incredibly strange, I think, given that it should be a major deciding factor in whether or not we should choose to kill him. There are literally no lines of dialogue by any of the characters here mentioning anything on that matter. Another thing, as I mentioned before, is that Carradine actually says that it was Vienne, not him, who killed Aiden.
Vienne, positioned as a sniper, lost her nerve. Hit Aiden square in the eye.
But since she is gone anyway, we cannot investigate that any further. He also claims that the story Lambert told us initially is quite different. That Aiden botched his job and ran away with the money. That they weren't sent to kill him at all in the first place, which again is quite the departure from what Lambert told us.
Some time ago, Aiden took on a contract to lift a curse off a duke's daughter.
Aiden had accepted a contract to lift the curse from the duke's daughter.
It was a political mess from the start. Then there was hatred for the School of the Cat to deal with. Some of the Duke's courtiers had designs, weren't at all keen on the curse being lifted from the Duke's firstborn.
He took the coin, bungled the job, then left. Once the girl passed on. We were not to kill him, we were debt collectors. He'd spent the coin already, so we demanded his swords.
So a band of trained assassins ambushed Aiden, murdered him.
Contrary to rumor, we did not set out to kill him. We were forced to when he attacked us.
And we can't really say or ask anything further about it. Even after we're done with Carradine, there is no more dialogue about Aiden, neither regarding the differences between Lambert and Carradine's versions of the story, nor about Vienne being the real killer.
You haven't changed a lick.
That disappointment, I hear?
No. Surprise, maybe.
All in all, no matter what we choose to say or do, and despite all the conflicting information, some of which can be potentially quite interesting to debate, all we can do boils down to killing him or sparing him, regardless of whether we think he's genuinely changed or not. So at the end, as I hit my hand so badly on the desk, by accident of course, so yeah, at the end, I'm just rather unsatisfied. Now there are a couple of details here that may or may not amount to anything. Probably the most curious one is that the wife has a sword on her hip. Several of my viewers have pointed that out over the years, claiming that perhaps it is a sign that the whole scene is staged and she's simply another one of Carduin's accomplices. And by Carduin I mean Carradine, sorry. Carduin is another rather rare character you can meet.
You don't understand. You cannot. But sometimes it takes courage to be a coward.
But anyway, what my viewers suggest is certainly possible. However, she does not jump in to fight alongside him or anything like that if we decide to kill him. In fact, it is made clear that Carradine was prepared for our arrival.
You're expected. Come in.
So the fact that neither the guards nor the armed wife are setting up a trap for us might actually suggest that Carradine was genuinely hoping to change our minds peacefully and was not secretly plotting to kill us. You know, because when he asks everyone to leave us alone, they truly do. So while the sword on the wife is certainly interesting, I can't help but feel like it may have simply been something the developers overlooked or perhaps removed from a more extensive version of the quest that never made it into the game. They also mention her name a couple of times and she doesn't really do anything or say anything, so perhaps there truly was more to her initially. Another explanation, I suppose, could be that given his past, he wanted to make sure that his wife can defend herself and the children potentially, and so he was training her to use a sword. Speaking of the children, by the way, there are also child's toys and a small table that can be seen in the yard, all of which might add to Karadin's credibility, although the table has suspiciously large mugs on it. I'm not sure what to make of this, to be honest. Maybe he was hosting dwarves from the criminal underworld.
Give us a kiss, Geralt. No? Then I'll smooch that roach of yours.
But either way, I don't think these circumstances are too significant after all of the missed opportunities that I already mentioned. Finally, a funny thing you can do, which I suspect I won't be able to resist showing earlier, and so you've probably seen already in the video, but through the use of console commands, or maybe through some clever parkour, you can actually make your way into his yard and kill him before officially meeting him.
Truth is, we're already dependent on the Black Ones, economically.
If you do that, you can still choose to spare him and the quest will proceed as normal, or you can choose to fight him, which will result in the cutscene immediately switching to the next cutscene after he's dead.
Been waiting a long time for this.
And I don't aim to die.
Thanks for your help, Geralt.
You're welcome.
Which I suppose works as intended. And with that said, I believe we're done. Do let me know if you have any further information, details, or just about anything interesting surrounding this quest. It always seemed to me like a missed opportunity for something more interesting than what we've got. Also, if you've watched this far, consider giving the video a like if you've enjoyed it, and I thank you very much for watching. Special thanks to my supporters and YouTube members, many of whom remained active despite the fact that I did not post much of anything over the past few months, which I hope to remedy going forward, at least to some extent. And yeah, that was it. Until the next video, stay tuned and be good.